So today we are going to have Dr. Bill Meirose. He is from the Harney Business Group. He is a training facilitator, and he adds a strong civic and faith element to Harney Business Group's course offerings. Bill has extensive experience in providing personality profiling, family and personal relationship coaching, my husband's already asked him about that, and seminars, suicide intervention training and prevention courses, and a variety of other relationship and business-based training packages. Dr. Meirose is retired from the South Dakota National Guard and has an EDD in adult and higher education. That's what makes him a doctor. Dr. Meirose is also the state suicide prevention program manager for the South Dakota National Guard. And with that, I give you Dr. Meirose.
Thank you. It is my honor to be here today to present and just share with you some of the things that we can do with Harney Business Group. And what I'm going to show you today is just an example of what I've been contacted and been in discussion with and how we develop that program. And so I have the honor of being partnered with Leah. I begged her, promised her the world in order to take me on as a partner, and so far she hasn't asked for anything, so we're doing okay. When she does ask me, we're in trouble. So I've been contacted by several major organizations, and what they have asked me to do is to develop a holistic suicide intervention and prevention program. And so what I'm doing is just that. The first thing that we do as we come into this is we define what the problem is. What problem do you really want to solve? I've got a lot of great ideas, just ask people who work with me. However, it may not solve your problem. And so as we look at the problem of suicide, this is the statistics for suicide in South Dakota in 2015. And for me it's frightening. We are number 7th in the nation. We have somebody die by suicide in South Dakota every other day. Which is, we don't hear about that much. Also, if you look over here on this side, it's the first leading cause of death for those that are 10 to 14 years old. Second leading cause of death, 15 to 34. And then it goes on to that. So what we want to do then is, what is the problem? What's the problem? Well, this is the problem. The problem is we have people from the ages of 10 to 34, that it's the top 2 cause of death. So now how do we address that problem? Based upon where we're at, and by taking a holistic look, we want to look, how do we even stop from getting to the place where we're doing the intervention into the suicide? And so we look at 3 things. For this problem, this is how we addressed it. The first one is we look at prevention. How do we keep people from getting to that place? The second thing is we provide intervention skills. And then the third thing is postvention. Now, May 20th, 2014, I had a heart attack. I had done everything right. I was almost everything right. No, I will put those caveats on there. I was in the National Guard. With the National Guard, you have to pass these PT tests. You have to stay in shape. You have to hit body. All of those things. I did all of that. No family history. My blood pressure was good. My cholesterols and triglycerides were all good. Well, that night, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning in a lot of pain. 4 o'clock went to the emergency room, and by 11 o'clock the next morning they had put a stent in my heart. I had done the prevention. I followed all the guidelines mostly. It's kind of hard to turn down a donut, isn't it, Mike? It's kind of hard to turn down some of those things. To go out and celebrate, somebody cooks you a big steak, you don't want to say, no, I can't eat that. So I've done mostly right. Just like almost every other American. But it hit a point. Something went wrong. And we had to do the intervention. And after the intervention was over, they put me in cardiac rehab. And so that's what we want to look at when we start looking at the suicide programs. A holistic suicide program is we want to, first of all, keep them from even getting to the place, if possible, that they're depressed or that they're struggling with that. And we do that, first of all, we want to create an environment for open and honest communication. So what we're looking at here is going back to, we've been identified the problem, we've seen the course of action, and now we're going to start looking at what is it going to take to solve the problem. One of the first things is to have that environment that's safe for me to tell somebody that I'm struggling. That it's okay for me to tell somebody I'm struggling. That takes two things. That takes, first of all, are you willing to listen? Do you have the skills to listen? Do you present the persona that you can listen to somebody? And the second thing is, do I trust you? Do I trust you? So we want to develop that. And so then we want to be able to say, I'm thinking about suicide. Or I'm being bullied. You know, we talk about kids in school, and when we looked at 10 to 14 years old, one of the things that you'll find is a lot of them have been bullied. And so, but can I go tell a teacher? What's the teacher going to do? And I'm not speaking against teachers, because I understand dealing with that many kids during a day and things, but if I just tell you, well, you just grow up, quit being a tattletale, do you think I'm going to tell you something again in the future? Those are some of the things that have to be addressed. Threats of violence. The individual who attacked the Parkland school. How many people have we heard through the news media that there was out there? It wasn't a surprise, because he had advertised what he was going to do. And so many people do that. But we have to be able to tell those things and have them taken seriously. Sexual assault or harassment. The days of the good old boy societies are gone, but we still have to be able to tell somebody. We still have to be able to talk about it. And that takes that environment. How do we do that? You know, and that's part of the struggle, that's part of the thing that I'm researching and working with right now, is how do we create that environment? Because we're dealing with people skills, and trust is always given. I have to trust you, and I give you my trust. And I have to see something in you, and so that's part of what we're looking at to do that, to do those things. The next thing is we want to celebrate the individual. We want to celebrate the individual. In here, I don't know how many people are in here, I didn't count them, but there is a unique individual sitting in every one of these chairs. You've got a background that's different than anybody else. You've got experiences that are different than anybody else. You've got a family that's different from anybody else. You've got talent, skills, and abilities different from anybody else. But when we do that, it goes against what we've been trained in society, because we want to fit everybody into this specific little box. That's what we want. 1 minute? Oh, all right, got 1 minute left. We want to teach resiliency skills. And those lie in 5 areas. We want to work all of these in. We want to develop an intervention plan. If it gets to that place, and this is what the military use, ask, scare, and escort. That's what they use. But we want to tie that in. We want to develop that post-intervention plan. I'm passionate about this. And the reason why I'm passionate about this is there's 3, but I'm going to tell you about 2. Several years ago, I got a phone call on a Sunday morning, and I went into a house. And I walked into the house, I was told by the policeman there that a young lady had taken her own life. And when I walked into the kitchen to talk to her mom, the policeman, or the mom, threw a cup of coffee in my face and said, "This was your fault." And I knew the young lady, and I'd worked with her in the church, and I hadn't had contact with her for a while. And I took that with me, and I still carry that. But the second thing is I did a funeral at the National Cemetery for a veteran who, he had taken his own life. And his parents, his wife said, "We knew he was struggling, but we didn't know where to go for help." My why is, that's never going to be said of me again. I'm going to do what I can do to get people to go there. My why is my passion. And that's why I do this. All of these things is that passion. Part of what we can do with Harney Business Group is not to take your job and make it your passion, but take your passion and make it your job. That's what we want to do. And how do we do that? The big ask that I have is, first of all, if you see a change in somebody's behavior, ask them if they're okay. Ask them if they're okay. If you're struggling, ask for help. Ask for help. And finally, send any referrals. We will work, we've got these plans already set up. We've got these things that we can do and go in, but we'll also do what I just explained to you for your needs, for your problems. And if we can't do it, we're honest enough to tell you before we send you the bill. And this is our contact information.
How long have you been doing the suicide prevention program?
I've been the suicide prevention program manager for the National Guard since September.
Okay.
I have been doing suicide interventions for 42 years. And I average about 2 interventions a month. So it's a skill that, unfortunately, I've developed over a lot of time.
Okay. All right, let's open it up for questions. I know you have them. And anything is fair game. You can ask them about their marketing strategy. You can ask them about how many employees. You can ask them if there's any other services. You can ask them in a wide variety of questions.
Bill, you mentioned working with organizations. Does it go far beyond suicide counseling? I mean, you've got a ton of other information on there. What other services do you guys provide? Which puts you back into another 6 minutes. So.
Like we do have the menus that are out there. You can go to the Harney Business Group website and see some of those things that we do offer. We offer almost a wide variety of things. Personally, I will do things like marriage enrichment classes. I will sit down with individuals and help them set up goals. I will work with time management skills, those type things. Leah, she does quite a bit with customer service. She does things with vision casting and those things with boards of, so we can do quite a few things. And the best thing for you to do as far as that's concerned is come to us and we'll sit down and we'll talk about what the problem is, but what you want to address and how best we can help you address that situation. Team building, all of those things.
You guys are quiet. I know you have questions.
Along those lines, can you tell us a little bit about how you would scale a project, like start that process for us, or give us an idea of how you would scale it?
Okay. The way I would start a project was similar to this, is we'd sit down and identify what the problem is, so that we're both on the same page. From there, we would start exploring what kind of solutions would we work through. What are some of the solutions that we can do to honestly address the problem? For me and from my standpoint, just going back to, and this is just an example, just one that I'm working on, and that's why we used it, is suicide is a symptom of the major problem. And so what we want to be able to do is we want to go in and we want to address what that problem is. And, there's a wide variety of things with this. We're looking at mental health, we're looking at the society, we're looking at all of those things in there. And then from there, how do we best address that? Is it best addressed through just a quick seminar? Or this project is going to be infused within the daily life of those organizations. This is going to be something that's there every day, where we start celebrating the individual, those type of things. And so I'm developing that. But the other piece of this is all research-based. These aren't Bill's good ideas. Now, Bill's good ideas I charge for a lot more than what I do for research. But I'm just saying that they're just not our good ideas. These are things that we have taken the time to research and develop and make that project. And then as we go through this process with something like this, we would be back in contact with you. Are we meeting your needs? Always readjusting, always reassessing to make sure that we circle back and say, yes, this was meeting your needs. We're not just giving you a bunch of fluff and it's a check the box and everybody's happy that we said something, but we haven't changed the problem. Does that answer your question?
You talked about research. Where are you getting some of your research? Where are some of your great sources?
Well, you know, with the suicide stuff, there's a lot of sources out there that you can look at. You can go to the CDC, there's the state, the Department of Social Services, there's Living Works who does a lot of the curriculum things. There's just a lot of different resources that a person can use that way. Mental health providers, all of those things. So that's with this.
Saeed, right?
That's right.
Oh, I said it correctly.
So you have, I assume you have different clients at different times and different situations. How do you guys manage your workflow and what does that look like?
Good question.
Well, right now, for me personally, it's not a lot. Okay, because I'm just getting started with this, and so basically what it is I have to go back and use my time management skills that I train people on. So I have to go in and I will set times out and say, okay, these are the times I use a block time method that I'm going to work on this project at this time. And so during that time, I will do the research that I need to do for this program. I will start writing up ideas. You know, I communicate with these individuals quite often to see if I'm on track. It's not like I'm going to present them a program without that feedback. So that's how I do it. And I'm sure Leah's kind of the same way with hers. You know, you take these blocks, you pencil those in during the week. So that's how it takes place.
Is it just you and Leah, or do you have staff, employees? What's the whole kind of business look like?
Well, right now it's just me and Leah. And so we basically we kind of work independently. We do get together at least once or twice a month, and we talk about what's going on. I send her different information, get her opinion, you know, so we kind of collaborate back and forth that way. And then I have my wife. She does a lot of my work. So she keeps, you know, she told me wear this shirt, these pants today, that type of stuff. So.
Dr. Meirose, you have a doctorate in education. What
Yes,
made you select suicidology as a job practice?
This can come down to, basically it comes down to me as a personal thing. I've struggled myself with depression and suicidal ideations, and I was looking for answers. And in the process of doing that, you run across a lot of people. And working with veterans as I've worked with veterans now since the early 80s, that I look at these young men and women who are coming back from overseas, and we're losing 20 a day. You know, nationwide we lose somebody to suicide every 15 minutes that aren't veterans. We're sending these individuals overseas, and the military is real good at breaking things. People, equipment, business, houses, countries, all of those things. But the military is not so good at putting them back together. And so as I look at these young men and women struggling and be able to help them come back into society and do those things. And so that's why this becomes a passion of mine. And then again, on the other personal side of things, I believe every person in this room has a God-given creativity built within them. How can I help you express that? So that's why I got to where I'm at now. I want, for me to see some young person take their life or older person take their life, it's frightening to me that that creativity now is lost to the world. So that's why I do what I do this way.
So as you're building this business, who is the target market? Like, who's your audience that you're trying to grow these services with?
Okay? Our market or our targeted audience, it just depends on, we can look at corporations or businesses who are looking at how to improve customer service, how to build their teams. Sometimes you get a team that's dysfunctional. We can come in and use some tools that we have at our availability to see where some of those dysfunctions are, how to improve those things. So that's one. We also, for me, I can work with churches and go into churches and do things like the marriage enrichment things. Those work very well in churches. And then we also can do individuals. We can sit down with individuals and just sit down with you, for example, and say, what is your passion? And how would that passion look if you were actually able to work it and in what you're doing now? So anybody basically who wants to improve what they're doing, we'll sit down and visit with them with. And it may be that we can't. But we won't know until we actually start into this process and say what the problem is and what we can offer. So, does that answer your question?
Who's your ideal targeted market for your suicide prevention and postvention program?
I'm looking for this as an organization. Something where those individuals are there every day and that you can work with them every day. This is not to take the place of things like the assist classes, QPRs, any of those mental health things. Those are seminar type things. What this market is for an organization similar to, I'm talking with the National Guard, for example. They use the ACE method, which is the Ask, Care, Escort. And what's supposed to happen with that is for 90 minutes, you stand in front of the soldiers and you show them a PowerPoint and videos that are older than me. So, and as soon as you turn that PowerPoint on, you can just see the eyes glaze over. And you've lost it. And so what we're looking with this is how we take this and we incorporate that every day. How do we incorporate that celebration of those soldiers every day? Mike is, and I pick on Mike, I've known Mike for a lot of years, he's here in uniform. Mike is a unique, special individual. How do we celebrate that? How do we celebrate his gift to the group every day? And then how do we work in those resiliency factors? Not to stand up and say, this is physical resiliency, fine, but how do we bring that in so that it's done every day? So we're teaching a healthy environment that if this program works right, you'll have very few people who ever get to the place of saying, I'm thinking about suicide. Life happens. And in life, we have struggles. And if you haven't had struggles, you haven't really lived. You have struggles. In a marriage, you have struggles. And these things will work within marriages, these same resiliency factors. And what we want you to do is to be able to work through those struggles in a healthy way. And if it fails, like with me, thank God the doctor knew about nitroglycerin. And, he had to intervene. So we want that also. And then after that happens, this is what we look at.
Have you ever considered partnering with local schools or church youth groups to hit another targeted population of youth versus National Guard?
I will work with, yes, I've considered it.
Okay.
I've actually presented to schools in the area. The teachers are required to have an hour for their licensure. And so I have presented to the teachers that way. I am working with this a little bit to do those things too.
No, actually, I don't need that. I talk loud enough. What is the competitive advantage?
For me, I don't really have a competitive advantage. You know, I need to make money enough for my family to survive, and the same way with Leah. But with this, what I want to be able to do is bring up healthy young adults, if I would go into schools, healthy young adults that are able to handle life stresses. You know, I didn't have to live with the concern of somebody coming in with a weapon into a school. But the people here didn't have to live with, I had to go through nuclear bomb training. You know, we went through the training where we practiced duck and cover back in the early 60s. I went through that. What I want to be able to do personally is to encourage those people I have contact with to be all that they can be. That's it. So a competitive edge, if somebody else can do it better, by all means they need to go do it. There are some markets I can't do, but there are some markets I can do, and I can do better than anybody else. And those are the ones that I'm looking for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, also, as much as this competitive advantage, which is what makes your product or services in this case better than anyone else's, but also what is your minimum viable product? Is it the website or is the service that you provide the would-be client?
It would be the services that we provide. The website is just an avenue to find us, to see what we can offer, how to contact, see if you want to go any farther than that.
Thank you.
So my question is, are you willing to travel to, give your trainings to, like, I'm thinking of the Indian reservations where suicide is relatively high. I mean, on my reservation, 2 young ladies just took their lives last week. Would you be willing to travel to, give your services in those trainings?
In the past 6 years, I've traveled the entire state of South Dakota, and I've trained almost 4,500 people. I've been on Pine Ridge Reservation 3 times. I've been up in the Lemon in that area once. I've been over on the east. If they need me, I'll go. You know, all they have to do is ask, and we'll go in and we can do what we need to do in order to, and not just South Dakota, but so, yes, I'll go anywhere for the suicide piece. Other things I may be more selective.
Have you given much consideration to pursuing grants as a funding source? It seems like your competitive advantage is very much based within your passion, I'd say unparalleled passion.
Mm-hmm.
And just thinking about the type of business, that certainly comes to mind as an avenue.
Yes, I have looked at grants. Part of the issue when you start looking at grants, they're more apt to give grants to nonprofit organizations. And because of the nature of how we have Harney Business Group set up, that kind of separates us out of those things. However, what I will do is I will help those institutions. I'm flying back from Connecticut here a couple weeks ago. I met a grant writer waiting for an airplane in Minneapolis. And we exchanged information, so I would give that information to the organization if they're nonprofit, and I would help them get the money to do that grant. Just because of the nature of the way we're set up, that separates us out of a lot of opportunities. And I don't need another iron in the fire right now to set up a nonprofit and keep that running too. So, but yes, I've looked at grants, and there are grants available, and there are organizations within Rapid City that can work with those grants and provide trainings too. And by all means, they need to be used too. Is that, okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
I want to know, what are some of the struggles as an entrepreneur that you have faced, and how have you overcome them?
Well, for me, the biggest struggle that I personally face is how do I get the word out there? I know I have the skills, I know I have the abilities, I can go on Facebook, but my 300 friends, they don't care. You know, I can do all of those things. So that's been my biggest struggle, and that's one of the reasons why working with Leah that we're able to do that by coming to this type of organization to start getting those things out that way. I don't want this to grow to the point where I feel overwhelmed because I've got a life I want to live too. So I want to be able to manage it. That's what I'm working on, and that's why I'm here.
So what marketing strategies have you used up to this point?
Well, I told you. For me, a lot of it was word of mouth, that type of thing. I have gone into some churches and done some seminars. Like I said, I worked with Leah. We've got a newsletter that we try to get out based on our schedules once a month that goes out to this type of organization. That's what we're looking at, and I'm open for any ideas. I think word of mouth is the most powerful, personally.
As a room full of entrepreneurs and or people who want to be entrepreneurs or have an idea, I think it's important for all of us to think about what we will not do, because sometimes in order to get paid, we take jobs that maybe we shouldn't. And so I'm wondering what you would say about that, Bill, as far as what will we not do?
I guess when I look at that, I look at what my skill sets are, is two things with that. First of all, do I have the ability to do that? I'm one that likes to say yes, but then I realize that someplace, I'm not going to go out and teach somebody or train somebody to run a marathon. All right, my feeling is if you see me running, you better run with me because there's something bad happening back there. Okay. Yesterday I ran around the block because my granddaughter left a block out on the floor, so I ran around that. So, what are my limitations, first of all? What do I feel comfortable about? And for me, I don't want to spend time doing anything right now that doesn't fit in with my passion for life. And so that's how I would start judging that. The second piece that I to use that no with is, do I have time at this moment to do that project justice? If I'm doing something else and you have a project that needs to quite a bit of time and research to develop, I might say, I can't do that right now. Can we put this off until this one is completed, or in 6 months I'll have that? So that's how I say no. I've got a big yes too.
In regards to reference material, in regards to suicide prevention, what would you suggest?
I do a lot of look into professional literature, those type things. For somebody who is not interested in going into that educational type thing, I would have two suggestions for them. Front Porch Coalition and 211. Those are organizations that are here in town that it's a good place to go get those type of informations, the trainings, ask those questions, depending on what the needs are. But that's what I would do.
Okay, so the very last question that, you're not on the hook yet. The very last question that we always ask all of our presenters is, what can we do as a 1 Million Cups community to help you in your business?
Just tell them we're here. Just tell them we're here. This is our email addresses. You can go on the bottom of the slide is the website. Just let them check us out, have them contact us. We can see if that's there, but just get the word out. Just get the word out that we're here and we're willing to help them, both individually and professionally. So, and I want to close with this. So one of the things we always look at is, how do I self-help books. I'm going to read a self-help book. Well, self-help books actually are very detrimental to your growth, because it gives you something else to fail at. Until you start to see yourself differently, you can't implement anything new within those changes. So part of what we like to do is work on how you see you. That's very important, because if you don't see yourself as an entrepreneur, It doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna fail at some point, because we can only white knuckle that information for so long. And so we want to help you be able to see yourself as an entrepreneur.